So hello and welcome to the Talking Food with Bidfood podcast. I'm Catherine Hinchcliffe and I'm standing in for the lovely Jo Anglis on this week's episode. We'll be talking about how to navigate food inflation from the point of view of centre of plate and most especially fresh meat. Grappling with both the cost of living and food inflation, caterers right across the hospitality industry are coming under a lot of pressure right now. They have to balance serving top quality and delicious food that meets the ever more discerning palate of their customers with growing pressure on both rising costs and tightening purse strings. Today, we're looking at how chefs and caterers can control their costs with fresh meat under the microscope, as centre of plate is the biggest cost factor and equally the biggest margin driver on the menu. So we're taking a slightly different approach this time, and we'll be diving into a conversation between one of our fresh meat experts, Darren Shaw, and Chef Damon Corey to see what practical advice they can offer up to help mitigate the food inflation that we're seeing, particularly on meat and poultry. And that's been caused partly by the war on Ukraine, the rising cost of feed, fuel, energy, and all the other challenges farmers are seeing that are playing out in market dynamics. So without any further delay, let's introduce our guests. My first guest has been with Bidfood's culinary development team for around 5 years. He is Damon Corey, and he's been a chef in various different guises for 30 years in hotels, restaurants, casinos, conference venues. He's even held a directorship at Gastronaut, which is a production kitchen, as well as being principal chef at a multi-site conference centre with a 150-bed hotel and 500 covers. Damon's built vast experience over the years and epitomises that great blend of creative and commercial. Welcome to the podcast, Damon.
Hi, Catherine. Nice to be here.
Turning now to Darren Shaw. Darren Shaw is one of our fresh meat experts. He trained as a master butcher many years ago. From the age of 14, he's been a butcher right the way through his career. He's passionate about sharing his skills and with businesses large and small, and is a real ambassador for all things farmstead. Welcome, Darren.
Hello.
So welcome back. Now let's jump into our conversation between Darren and Damon. And let's start with Damon. What cuts would you recommend, Damon, that you feel represent best value at the moment?
Oh, hi, Catherine. It's a really tricky question because we always talk about cuts are not utilised, but I think that every part of the animal now is being well utilised, unlike the sort of pre-2000s when you could pick up belly pork and Jacob's ladders and shoulders really, really cheaply. The way the price of protein is, people have already jumped onto the bandwagon of using all these braising cuts. One of the most important things to try and do now is to try and stretch your protein in the dish. Rather than using full pieces of protein as a centre plate, I think we need to start breaking the protein down and adding it to dishes. So, for example, a smoked streaky bacon, it stretches really well. It's relatively cheap. You shred that up. You can pass it through a sauce. You can pass it through a pasta dish or a gnocchi dish. And that still gives you a meat dish on your menu that's not going to cost you a fortune. You know, a steak is a steak. You're never going to move away from a whole piece like a steak. But there's definitely different ways you can put those meat dishes on your menu without having that whole protein piece involved.
Mm-hmm.
Picking up on what Damon's just said about the proteins, there's a really good chicken protein product that we sell. It's a chicken inner fillet. This is a lot smaller than an actual breast of chicken. So yes, it's not cheap, but it's going to be a little bit cheaper than normal chicken breasts. But there's more in the packet, so you're getting more for your money. And 2 or 3 chicken fillets can be battered out. They can be breaded, and they can be utilised and used as a burger instead of mincing them. And it actually makes them go further by breading them, and they look a little bit more trendy.
So I guess a dish for that, Darren. What's great about the idea of battering a chicken in a fillet? You can make a ginger beer batter, for example, and the actual protein a chicken in a fillet is quite a small piece of protein, but putting the batter around it makes it look bigger. So to the eye, the perception to the customers, they're still getting a fair sized dish. So if you've got 3 chicken in a fillets, instead of having a whole chicken breast sliced down the middle and butterflied, you take 3 chicken in a fillets, you batter it. That becomes quite a big center for a burger. You put some funky slaw in and a nice chimichurri mayo or something like that, or a mango chutney, to create a really nice big burger, but the protein level on it is quite small.
Yes, exactly. And it looks really trendy, to the eye. It looks really good. Like you say, with all the slaw and all the build-up of it, you're actually using quite a lot less protein, but you're getting more for your money.
And I guess with a burger being, burgers are historically a high sale item, and being able to create dishes that fall into that bracket of high sale items, shaving the money off there is really key to be able to get that bigger save at the end of the week, I think.
So thanks, Damon. So obviously using the meat you've got and stretching it more is the way to go. Are there any more examples you've got of ways you can do that?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, it's about bulking out the dish as well. So you can add proteins with pulses, and lentils are a great way to add a protein to a dish, and also really filling. So you get a good plate fill when you use chickpeas and red lentils and green lentils. And also think about mince as well, mince for meatballs. But in your meatballs, do like a tagine meatball, for example, where you can add roasted peppers in there and chickpeas to really bulk the dish out without having to. Even though mince is a relatively cheap protein in comparison to a prime cut or a center cut whole protein, you can still bulk out that dish by doing that, and then doing a great accompaniment with it as well, some jeweled couscous or some interesting veg. So also make the vegetable and the side dish the star of the plate to sort of give people the perception of great value for money. But that aside, with all the sort of cheaper products to use, you still need to have prime cuts on your menu as well. It can't all be about the cheaper shortcuts. You've got to have your prime cuts on there. And Darren, have you got any examples we could use for a sort of centre plate prime cuts that would be cost effective?
Farmstead have got a whole strip loin. It's a UK Irish product. It's a 6 kilo minimum. And the way I've sold this to people, they turn around and go, I can't afford to buy a whole sirloin joint. It's actually quite simple thinking, really. I take the joint into the customer, I trim it down, and they're still saying, oh no, I can't afford that. I can't afford that to put onto me roasts or anything like that. But when I've actually trimmed it, I've taken 5 nice sort of 8-ounce steaks out the middle. I put those 5 steaks to one side, and I say to them, right, you sell those for, the going rate, which I know in restaurants for an 8-ounce sirloin steak, is around about the £20 mark. So those 5 steaks have actually already earned you profit on the whole joint. So when the penny drops, they look at the protein, they look at the meat they've got left, which is 3/4 of the joint. That is actually 100% margin. That meat that's left over from the 5 sirloin steaks is pound notes in their back pocket straight away. And they then think, well, actually, we can sell 5 decent sirloin steaks. We can cut a few more if we need to, but we've now got a really quality high-end roast protein to put on the Sunday roast, which then people get talking about, oh, you want to go to this pub, they do a lovely Sunday roast. They use sirloin, which is a far better quality of meat than to like topside or silverside. So, they are giving their customers a better product, but it's actually cheaper than buying topside or silverside because of these 5 steaks that are being cut out the middle and utilising the whole product and actually getting a lot more for the cost of the product.
That's a great tip. That's really interesting, because I suppose the one Well, you're putting roast sirloin on your Sunday lunch menu, and you'll be able to charge a premium price for that as well, being a sirloin. The other bonus about roasting with sirloin as well is it's an even cook. So when you roast it in the oven, you've got that even cook all the way through, rather than having really well done ends and then your medium rare in the middle. So, and it really helps with carving and portion control, I find,
Exactly,
as well, using a sirloin, because it's really tricky. You get a top side in, it's quite tricky to get that portion control in there. But when you're doing a sirloin and you're carving it for a Sunday roast, it's a lot more, it's a lot easier. Especially if you depending on what chefs, what we all know, man, depending on what chef's cutting your meat as well, it can go south quite quickly on your profit margins. But with that strip loin, it's really good. And I had no idea really that we had that, that was available to us, to be honest with you. It's a revelation, I think.
Going back to when you say like carving it, you get your portion control is so much easier. This is done for on the whole strip loin. There's nothing stopping our customers doing it with a whole loin of pork. That can be done exactly the same way as the whole strip loin. They can still cut their pork steaks out the middle and use the rest as a roasting dish. It doesn't just stop at the beef. It's a really good. It's a different way of thinking about a product.
So if you've got our strip, what size is a strip loin?
The 515 strip loin, it's 6 kilo minimum. So it starts off as a really chunky size to start with.
And I guess we're all, and I'm absolutely guilty of this as well. I've spent years in kitchens where my meat all comes in butchered, the steaks are all cut to the right size, and I know that I can lose confidence, or anyone that doesn't do practice their skills over a long period of time, you start losing confidence and the ability to be able to cut, especially butchery. But I guess with a strip loin, once you've taken off that extra fat trim, which is quite easy, with a strip loin, it's quite straightforward to get an accurate cut on a steak, isn't it? What would you recommend about getting the right size and get right weights on the steaks? I suppose that's the question I'd want to know if I was going to be bringing in a big joint.
Yes, I fully understand where you're coming from, Damon. For me, it's like second nature. But most chefs have some sort of level of butchery. They know how to portion. So, if they're a little bit I'm not sure. Good old Google. You can Google, just put in butchery, cutting steaks. That will give you a little bit of an earshot of visually how to do it. And you've only got to cut 2 or 3, and it won't take long before that. It's come back to me. And the other thing on that, don't put a weight on the menu. Just put hand cut sirloin steaks. So that gives you can do if it comes up 7 ounce, you're not held to it's got to be 8 or 10 ounce. 7 or 8 ounce sirloins are still going to be a nice size steak on the plate. So that takes away the pressure. It's got to be 7 ounces, or it's got to be 8 ounces. Take the 8 ounce, take the weight off of the menu. Hand cut sirloin steak, and you've got a little bit to play with. But it doesn't take long. And the other thing is, if some of the customers, they're going to be buying quite a few of these, then Bidfood have got we've got 2 master chefs within the business. We can go and support these customers. We can go in, we can give them a little bit of product training, and everybody likes a little bit of massaging. And go in and just basically teach them how to do it if that's what they wanted.
I guess when you say take it off the menu, I think if some people are a bit dubious about, because it's still a good amount of money in to order a whole strip loin. But if people are a bit cautious about doing it and unsure, you talk about take off the menu, but customers could consider putting this on a special menu for a week, couldn't they? So they could get one in to trial it they get the specials menu up. They've got X amount of cuts to get through. If they didn't want to put, they don't want to change their Sunday roast around, they could put like a nice sort of gourmet carvery, a nice sort of gourmet carvery roll on, some triple cooked chips in the week, and do a strip loin carvery roll with some nice gravy, some horseradish, just to trial it out in the week to see how it goes. I know that I've worked in places and we put carvery rolls on, nice quality carvery rolls, and they've just gone down so well, man. You get a nice bap and some strip loin put in there, some carved up, and a nice jus, and it's a great way to be able to A, practice with a different cut of meat, and B, try this out and just see the profit margin that you can make by just doing this simple task.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the protein that you've got left over from those 5 steaks, the bosses are going to be going, that is a lot of money that we're making. And, all these head chefs, they'll understand when they actually see it. And it'd be a great way of them to get their margins up in the kitchen.
So Darren, exactly. Once you've taken those steaks out, you mentioned you're left with 3/4 of the joint. What could you get out of that in practical terms?
In practical terms, you could possibly cut that down into more steaks. So you could get 10, 15 steaks out of a whole strip loin, and then use the rest of it for roasting. You could even go a little bit thinner and do sandwich steaks for lunchtime instead of doing a whole 8-ounce or 7-ounce sirloin. We could offer on the specials, we do a sandwich steak, which is about a 4 to 5 ounce flash fry sirloin, which would be able to cut out the middle. And there's so many little different dishes that you could utilize it. And most places, restaurants have a specials board, and like Damo said, you can trial, you can practice, maybe we'll do this with this. There's so many opportunities to do different dishes with the whole joint.
But you've got your opportunity right there as well, haven't you, for like an express lunch? So a lot of places offer express lunch, or they offer you 2 or 3 course lunchtime special menu with a limited starter, a couple of starters, couple of mains, couple of puds. You're also opening up to a bit more of a luxury child's menu as well by doing the sort of the mini steak for the children, because I know my little boy would love to go out and have a steak and chips with his dad. I'm not going to pay for an 8-ounce one for him, but no. I'm quite happy to pay for a 4-ounce sirloin for him for sure. So it also opens up all those sort of menu options for you too, I guess. Also,
like you're saying that about your boy, the OAPs, they don't eat as much as as a normal adult. So having that ability and that flexibility of cutting it to the size that you want, you've got all these different age groups that you can cater for. And one final thing I'd like to say is within our business, all these customers, please use our expertise. Use our, we've got guys that have got years and years of experience. We'd love to come and help you, show you, point you in the right directions. And we've even got links to, show you how to trim down the strip loin. So just follow the link and have a look, and, it might enlighten you to change your ways a little bit.
Great. Thanks so much, Darren.
That's okay. It's been a pleasure.
And thanks, Damon, too.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been good to chat to you.
There were so many great practical tips and so much advice shared by our fresh meat specialists and our chef Damon. I hope you found amongst them some that will work for you and which can make a difference to your bottom line in such a challenging trading environment. If you're keen to learn more about this episode's topic, you can find links to the topics and ideas we've discussed and more in our show notes. We've also included links to a really entertaining video and blog that looks at this theme and demonstrates some recipes and solutions in our kitchen here in Slough. It's been a great pleasure to host today's episode, and as Joe would always say, if you've enjoyed it, please make sure you follow our series on your favourite podcast platform so that you can hear our latest episodes just as soon as they come out. Thanks for listening, and until next time, goodbye.